odd. We've battled with, against both of these folks in KVKs and an Ark of Osiris in the past to know that they're pretty gosh darn good at what they're doing here. So we should see a really exceptional match. Both of these kingdoms and alliances take Ark of Osiris pretty seriously. So I'm eager to see how this one is going to unfold. If I had some predictions based on how I've seen these teams play in the past, I think they're going to try to take the altar on the inside, close to where the temple is, the desert altar, push through to the Shrine of War, and swing around the back into the Temple of Osiris for the Ark spawns. But we'll see if they've changed their strategy, as Dragothian has mentioned. Dragothian, is there anything that you're looking for in the start of this matchup?
You know, I am, and thanks, Jisco. I appreciate the segue. So we've got some interesting things happening lately. There's been a resurgence that I've noticed on the top tier teams of fast moving marches. It's all about speed, folks. And when it comes to pressing the initiative and being on your enemy's side of the map, the more you're on their side of the map, the less they're on yours, because they have to defend against an absolute swarm of marches and rallies heading their direction. I'd be very interested to see if we don't see an attempt at a fast cav capture of an obelisk very early on. I've seen 1008 try that a couple times, having played against them before. I've also seen and know quite a few members from both teams, really heavy fighters. These guys are known for spending 12, 14, 24, 36 hours inside of a KVK, absolutely demolishing their enemies. That translates to the field, folks. That type of fighting style, not knowing when to give up, not knowing when to quit, helps inside of this. So from a strategy standpoint, I look to see rallies coming out to all the obelisks. I look to see some things breaking at the altars, but I also look to see possibly, as 15 seconds is left for the countdown, some fast cav going to some of these obelisks, Chisco.
Yeah, well, how about this? In addition to rallying the obelisks, what about rallying outposts? We got 5 seconds before this starts, but you think they're going to launch some of those too?
I'm always a little hesitant to do those because you can only fit 500,000 troops inside of an outpost rally. However, that's a march and a half, right? That's something. If you rally all three, that's, 1.5 million troops. It's not bad. I've seen that before too, and that's been a strategy that has been prevalent lately. I'm just not sure how successful that's been, but it's something that's happening, and I'm interested to see how that plays out as we open up the rally screen.
Yeah, looks like neither side is taking that route and instead opting for the more standard obelisk rallies all the way around. They rally their own as a defensive measure to get a whole bunch of troops over there. Typically, you use really fast-moving marches and then switch to a really powerful captain that you've put into that rally. And also rallies that are headed toward the opposing side obelisks to either keep them honest and actually try to take it, or to break and use that extra march speed granted by a rally to go take something else instead and just get really far downfield.
Yeah, I agree. And just as you said, they're not doing it. It looks like the blue team has decided to rally the front outpost of 1341. So that's a thing.
More rallies, I just assumed.
Yeah, just assumed, right?
Yeah, no.
I mean, that's the normal.
Okay.
So they took one of the obelisks off and added in an outpost. I'm curious because even if you're going to, that to me tells me that they're not going to break it. Because if they were going to break it, you might as well send it to an obelisk because you can fit 1.5 million troops inside of a rally. So to me, that means they're going to go for this outpost of Seth on the 1341 side, which means that, again, that's two armies that are not going to be on the top and bottom lanes to help support defending / rallying. So this is going to be interesting. We're already seeing some changes. It looks like we have 9 rallies going now. Let's see where those extras are coming from. Looks like 1341.
I wonder if this is, in fact, signaling to what I was suggesting earlier, and I apologize for slightly interrupting you there, but if they're not rallying the obelisk on one side, are they going all in on the side where they are rallying the obelisk? And that would line up with the strategy I suggested, where they take their desert altar and then push through to the Shrine of War. I guess we'll see.
Yeah, that could definitely be the case. And it looks like 1341 has added in one of their own extra outpost rallies as well. Now we have 9 rallies firing off. So I mean, this is definitely all punches are being thrown. There's no punches pulled today. These two know that whoever wins is going to be continuing on to the playoffs round of 8. This is a knockout round, ladies and gentlemen. So this is going to be a matchup that is going to be fought fiercely to the very end. I don't see either of these teams giving up very easily. And with about 9.5 minutes left for the arc to spawn, we see the initial rallies to garrison their own friendly obelisks arriving, which is great. That means that we're going to see proper defense against things. I don't see anybody doing any extra fast cav activity, Chiskel. Then we can start settling into who's going to take all these structures that pop up in, let's see, 2 minutes exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny they launched the rally on the outpost. So everybody's doing an outpost rally here. A little bit of anything you can do, I can do better. Maybe the other side deciding they want to get in on it.
It's very possible. It's very possible.
So there it goes. And I liked your point about these rallies, which is that, like, hey, it's kind of cool that you could rally that and move some troops downfield. But you're right that you can only have 500,000 troops in that rally, because that's the capacity of an outpost, and that's one march being much smaller than it normally would. Now, in this case, it does look like the squad is using a double C primary, so I'm inclined to believe that that's actually 2 marches designed to get to the backfield and then disrupt the gathering.
That could definitely be the case, and actually 2 double C-led rallies high-fiving each other, one from each opposing team. And now that double C-led rally is hitting a Richard-led garrison, which is not going to be very good. They go ahead and break that right away. And like you said, now they're going to go ahead and start disrupting here. See if maybe they can snag another outpost or hit those provisioners like you talked about. Or I've been seeing a lot of folks lately going over and tapping the obelisk, because when the teleports happen in about 5 to 10 seconds, a lot of times they'll pull all their marches out of the obelisk, and then next thing you know, there's a little mobility cav march tapping your obelisk and stopping that point production, which is very significant at this level of the game.
Yeah, it's highly disruptive to lose your obelisk this early in the game, especially, oh my gosh, if you can get there before they get their teleports in. You can't do that the way that rally just huge. Unfolded. But yeah. I've seen some shenanigans with T1 cavalry and teams that are unprepared to defend against it. Whew.
Yeah, I agree. I've actually been on the bad side of that, watching it. It's never happened, but there's been a couple close calls where your heart kind of skips a beat just a little bit, and you're like, oh no, is this really going to happen? How dare you? And then the next thing you know, you're like, okay, we're good. We're good. It's okay. It's happening.
Speaking of things that are good or maybe not so good, if you're in 1008, that sneaky cav capture took place for the Sky Altar in the upper left.
It sure did, and it's going down. Looks like 1008 is swarming it. Now, there are a few reinforcements from 1341, at least one march coming in to maybe delay just a little bit furthermore. HKL, having been inside that matchup on the opposing side for the HKL match today, they did a fantastic job of just streaming just enough reinforcements through the map to hold a structure like this for way longer than it should have been held. And that really helped them win the match against 1ABG earlier today. We're looking at the opposing side. It looks like 1008 did exactly the same thing. However, it's got an Attila in it. Now, it did just go down. And it looks like, I think the other one on the bottom side that you were referencing is also down too. So everything's evened out. But again, I think that was almost mirror image, right? Mirror copy of what just happened on both sides.
Yeah, I was going to say it looks like we're going to have a pretty defensive game here. However, when I look to the left-hand side of the map, there is a large group of blue marches making their way toward the Desert Altar, owned by Red. And so I am inclined to believe that there's going to be a good contest on that left-hand portion of the map.
Yeah, I agree. There's definitely a big mass. That's actually where my camera was when you started mentioning it. That's exactly what the viewership is watching here, and I think that you're right. This is going to be a rally/swarm. This is how structures are taken in today's Osiris League playoffs. This is the only way to take a structure is with field support. If you're just sending a rally to a building, you can pretty much bank on it not working, especially with the caliber of garrisons that we have nowadays with YSS and Theo, and some of these alliances have Zenobia, and I mean these are things that you have to take into account. You can't just send an Attila Takeda rally and just expect it to take whatever you're targeting. It's just not that game anymore. This game has definitely become very well rounded. More skill damage reduction, like with Tamiris that you see on the screen there. More AoE damage, more debuffs. That's what's winning these open field fights.
Yeah. Well, and let's talk about that a little more. So they're doing this open field fighting now. Presumably there's a rally somewhere. It's not here yet. Okay,
It's
okay,
coming.
it's yeah, 35 seconds away, right? So what do you think is the best strategy for this? Do we duke it out in the field for a little bit, wait for the rally to soften it up? I feel like the timing was maybe off here. Like, why charge in before the rally is here?
Correct. Yeah, that's exactly right. You nailed it on the head. When you're talking about field support, because right now their support's getting wiped. This is a lot harder for 1008 to reinforce from than is 1341. Their teleport spot is literally a half a screen away, and now you've got the rally coming in to hit this structure. And this is an Attila rally here. It looks like Attila Takeda, and you're looking at a Charles, probably Constantine or Charles Theodora defense, depending on how far in the MGE they are. So I mean, we're looking at really an empty field now for 1008 because they came in so early. You wanted to wait until that rally really started to get to the point where it's about to hit that structure, then push in and start swarming with full marches instead of having what looks to be maybe 6 or 7 marches left with all red and yellow health.
Yeah, I kind of wonder if the timing was maybe purposeful and the rally's just late, because maybe they're trying to have their marches make it back home in time to go to the Ark in the center. There's only 3 minutes and 20 seconds till the Ark spawns in. Nobody's going there yet, but we're approaching that time where, it's time to go to the center. And in previous matches that we cast today on the channel, folks were going into the center like 5 and 6 minutes before Ark. So it's interesting that both teams seem to have this unspoken agreement of like, hey, if you don't go to the middle, I won't go to the middle.
Yeah, that would be amazing / weird. But yes, I mean, I totally agree with you. And you're right. I mean, in the middle, usually we have fights at this point. Almost 3 minutes left, a little under 3 minutes left until the Ark spawns, and there's barely a couple marches. The meta used to be go as late as possible so that you can defend your structures. The meta has changed now, and now it's get to the middle as quickly as possible so you can position effectively and block off taking the Ark, because if you can get that initial bump and have chain mobility marches behind that initial bump, you're in really good shape to go ahead and capture that Ark. And again, today, and you saw it pretty much throughout most of the matches, that was the strategy to win the Ark of Osiris from the middle. And right now, it's looking like 1008 is kind of outpacing the 1341 team from coming into the middle. But there's so many structures blinking, eh?
Yeah, well, so 1008 did that thing that I thought they might do. They ran forward, took the Shrine of War, and then they swing around the back into the middle. And, it's funny. In my alliance, we actually battled against them 3 or 4, maybe even 5 arcs in a row. It was really wild. But this is a strategy that I know they like to do, and they do well. And they're executing on that plan. The problem for 1341 in red right now is that they don't have enough marches in the middle yet, although it looks like they are kind of trying to make that commitment to get this Ark. And they don't have much time. They have 1 minute and 30 seconds to get all of the combat on top of the temple. Otherwise, someone from blue can just sneak this Ark and run away with it.
Yeah, and here's the other problem. I mean, you just said earlier the Shrine of War dropped in favor of 1008 for just a little bit before it being taken back by 1341. But if you look just above at the Sky Altar on the top lane, 1008 looks to be very close to taking the Sky Altar, or at least close enough to where it's making armies not go to the middle. And this is, again, what has been shown to be a very successful setup, taking structures while the middle is being contested. And then on top of all that, you're going to also possibly lose the Ark on top of it. So you've got the Ark going in a particular direction, and you're talking about losing structures. And just as I say that, of course, 1341 taking the Shrine of Life at the top, as well as when these fights in the middle are really cranking hot with 30 seconds left. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, well, I mean, they take the Shrine of Life, but they lose all their outposts, which, gosh, how many points per minute is an outpost? Let's get a look here. 30.
Yep. 30.
So they actually are net negative on points.
Yep.
Those outposts are worth holding on to, and I can't believe they're holding on to that altar.
It's amazing. Death Squad literally was streaming stuff in, Chisco. It was crazy.
Yeah, it's like by a thread, that Charles Martel. That's the theme of today's casting for me, is Charles Martel holding on by a thread. Oh
That
my
shield's coming in
goodness.
handy, yeah. I mean, it's
Oh yeah.
now it's all about the arc, right? I mean, the arc just spawned. The fights are still happening. I've also seen something to kind of keep an eye on with the skills. I do see a couple alliance skills already popped here. A lot of people are starting to transition their alliance skills away from the movement speed based ones like Bog Down and Rapid March and things like that, and they're really going heavy on the stat based buffs, and even to the point where some of the heavier point based stat buffs. Now, right now, I see Mystical Formation getting popped here, and I think that's from 1008, I want to say, although I may be mistaken. It's pretty much just a glowing blur in the middle right now with all of these armies basically mashing into each other. And some strategies that we've seen from some of the earlier matches, too. They're clumping up, they're AoEing, they're debuffing targets, and they're just completely wrecking anything that comes in that's not together, not coordinated. Like the streaming stuff that 1341 is doing right now is not going to break this clump up from 1008. I can tell you that right now.
Yeah, Kaladin Stormblessed picking up the Ark of Osiris, likely making his way back to an outpost to capture that. And gosh, there's so much open field related stuff that I want to talk about. But first, I think I want to touch on your point about skills like Bog Down not being used as much. And the crazy thing about Bog Down, it seems like a really simple thing, right? You slow down everybody in an area, but it's one of the skills that really actually requires perfect execution to even get value, right? Like it's so easy to use a Bog Down, not actually meaningfully stop anything from happening, and you just kind of wasted your energy for no major value. You see what I mean?
Yeah,
like
I
it's a
do.
lot easier to deploy 80% of stats to all your units and get value than to perfectly time a Bog Down.
Yeah, I agree. And like you said, the timing, right? There's a little bit of a delay there. Now that 1341 does have the arc and is moving back, I crashed there for a second, and thank you for kind of filling that gap. There's a delay, and it's significant. If you haven't used that often enough and you don't know what that delay looks like, it's tough. It's tough to use. It's tough to place correctly. Like you have to actually place it off your target and know which direction that target is going to really place it perfectly, and it's tough to do. So I think that you're right. Just get everybody together, get those buffs up, and that's what's really winning the center fights, guy. Like it's a significant deal winning these center fights and being able to basically impose your will with as many marches as you possibly can in the middle.
Yeah, well, to that end, if 80% of stats is pretty good, right? How about 60% of stats and it takes no energy whatsoever? And that is, of course, Mulan that I'm referring to. So what I don't see here is that light purple glow from a Mulan, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, and you know what? You're right. It's funny. I haven't really looked for Mulan that much in the middle. I think that she has some significant value based on her talents, the rage reduction that she does, alongside of that buffing that she does as well. And I haven't really seen much of her either. Although to be honest with you, I haven't been looking. So keep both of us honest here, ladies and gentlemen. Let's look and see if we can find Mulan. I think that there's some value there because of the size of her AoE buff. That's a great idea, is to kind of keep an eye and see if any team is utilizing Mulan, because she's new and people like to play with new and shiny things, but she's also really valuable in group fights just like this one.
Oh yeah, we ran some testing earlier this week, and it really makes a huge difference to have that buff from Mulan, both in the combat and with the march speed. We were doing some testing to see also how long it takes to run the Ark of Osiris. It takes a full 20 seconds off your carry if you could keep that Mulan 30% march speed buff going. And I know that's like a perfect world, but still, like, how close do some of these matches end up, right? Like a little bit here or there goes a long way, and I can't believe we're seeing finally now a little bit of a breakaway with that arc. Koala, the carrier from 1341, knocked down. I think 1008 might be getting control of the middle now.
Yeah, it's looking that way. The blue wave is significant, but 1341 is pouring in from the south. But like we said earlier, 1008's clumped up. 1341 is kind of streaming it. So it's going to be interesting to see if they can break up that clump. I do see quite a few low and middling marches on the blue team. A lot of yellow health bars here, whereas a lot of this 1341 reinforcement armies are coming in. These guys are full health and ready to rock and roll. So this may kind of push it back over onto the other side. We'll see if that plays out the way it is. But 1008 does have the arc right now and is moving towards their side of the map, and while they're doing that, taking structures to boot. They took the Shrine of Life on the bottom side there. There's an outpost still blinking blue, which means that there's somebody in there trying to at least keep some more points going in favor of them, or at least stopping them from getting them to the other team. It's looking very, very, very heavy in the middle when it comes to the fighting. This is where all the action's at.
Yeah, looks like 1341 now trying to carry the arc. I mean, it's pretty astonishing. If you can just get that arc closer to your side of the matchup and have people have to walk through all of your team's marches and battle their way through just to get the carrier, you have a huge advantage, but neither side is really able to garner that advantage right now because it's just so contentious in the middle. Every time I think it's going one side, it flips the other.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And one thing I had a struggle with in my match today was just clicking, even with the Ankh at the top left of the screen, just clicking and grabbing the arc with a march. Some folks just were able to do it before it even dropped, it almost seemed. Like it was very, very quick for some of the folks to immediately start picking up that arc, whereas it was hard for me to click an arc and grab it and be able to go ahead and pull that arc back towards your team. And with that being said, Nilder USA from 1341 is on a tear breakaway down the middle here, trying to get away from all these blue marches and really doing a great job with a Takeda-led march, although it looks like it's now getting caught up to and it might be dropping here shortly. But big move from Nilder on the 1341 team, going down but putting a big chunk of land behind him.
Now, funny that we were talking about Mulan earlier, and there's the Mulan used by Noodle, whose army just got smashed. Attila and Mulan. Interesting combo, right? Interesting combo. Mulan doesn't care about skill damage.
She sure doesn't. You wonder if you want to go the mobility. Attila's not a bad idea. I know it's attack tree and all that good stuff, but if you're using Cav, right, it's going to be a little more mobile. Or you can go the other route and go ultra tanky, like with a Charles or with a Constantine or something like that to keep that buff going strong. It's interesting to see which way to go with that, right?
Yeah, not a lot of rage generation on the Attila, and that's kind of what you want to keep that Mulan buff cranking out. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I like that creative use of Attila, as we've got a breakaway carry now. Double C carrying Koala 1341, making their way south. Looks like they're trying to take it toward an obelisk, which I think is a smart play. It seems nearly impossible for someone to take the arc right from underneath you when you're at your obelisk, except earlier today.
Oh my goodness.
That almost happened.
Yeah, you gotta watch it. You gotta watch.
I mean, it's tricky, right? Like you have multiple marches on the field. So I think the carrier brought the arc over to the obelisk. They sat it down and they were like, okay, I'm going to play my other marches. And so they didn't notice that they were getting attacked by the obelisk. Enemy team took the arc and almost took the obelisk too and capped it there. It was crazy.
Yeah, the only thing you got to worry about is it too full, right? Is the target you just took too full, and now I can't cap it. So I always love watching the snafus like that happen, because at that point it's anybody's game. All the work and labor that those guys took to get that arc to your building, and then magically right in front of your eyes, it's no longer your color, it's your enemy's color. That is the worst feeling in the world whenever you're in that seat trying to get the things done. It looks like Koala is going to bring this back to a city and cap it right away, which is probably the right play. They did pretty well in the middle, and it did take a while for them to actually capture the arc, but they need this because looking at the points, right, they just took the lead, but they were behind by about 1,000. 1008, I believe, is being just a little bit more successful on the structure game than is 1341, and that is showing in the points here. 1,700 points in favor of 1341, but that's just because they just capped a 3,000 point arc. I think they need some work to do when it comes to getting these structures blinking red.
Yeah, it does seem like 1008 is incrementally better when it comes to capping some of these buildings, but it's still close enough that I would say this is far and away anybody's game. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like this, it's very hard to say from this position who is better postured to win. We do see rallies in on the Sky Altar and also pressure on the Desert Altar. A lot going on.
Yeah, and it's all red. It's all red side basically getting blinking right now. It looks like we just saw a Desert Altar rally hit from 1341, although it's getting swarmed down with no field reinforcement. So this artillery looks to not even be full. Wow, that Attila rally is taking heavy normal damage there. 28,000 white number going against above that Death Squad Attila rally. That is rough to see an Attila rally getting swarmed, which is basically a huge red no-no in general play. But in Ark of Osiris, it's not that bad because you just got to use healing speed ups. If you run out of troops, you don't lose dead troops. So looking at that as well, going down to the Sky Altar, it looks like this Attila rally from Troy in 1008 is also doing some significant work. 1341 trying to scramble to do the same thing that just happened to them at the Desert Altar previously. Let's look at the other Desert Altar down at the bottom. They're still going after this with more 1008 coming. This might actually flip blue. Chisco, what do you think?
Yeah, it's in trouble. The rally's about as low as the structure. I honestly don't know. There's so many folks here. This seems like a good opportunity, though, to talk Garrison. I have seen so many different things used all day long. It seems like there's no one consensus best Garrison. We see here a Charles Martel with a Theodora. Nice AoE damage, clear some debuffs, good shielding. But man, up top, there was an Artemisia Wuzetian. And we saw some Richard the First being used earlier today, not in this matchup. What do you think the Garrison meta is looking like these days?
You know, at the Shrine of War for 1008, I saw the meta, and it was Zenobia anything. Zenobia has been really testing out, and we're about to see a rally hit from Cam, who is a big player, big-time player with top-tier gear. From 1341 hitting Zenobia, and Zenobia is just kind of sitting here and being cute about it. Let's see who the second is here. I see Zenobia and Theo. So this is basically going to be, in my opinion, the gold standard when it comes to defense against Attila Takeda, which is pretty much what's being sent in Osiris League. As I say that, I've seen quite a bit of Guan Leo really starting to make a resurgence. I've seen quite a bit of Edward Tamiris make a resurgence. Because what they're doing is they're coming with these skill damage rallies and then field supporting it with Swarm. So if you're debuffing with Tamiris on a structure against skill damage and you've got 10 skill damage armies around swarming that structure as well, it starts to melt pretty quick.
Yeah, I certainly would believe it. I mean, I like Theodora for just clearing all those debuffs. We do see some heralds running around the field here too, so it's nice to see some of the newer commanders being put to task here. I have to admit, the Theodora with the Zenobia is really quite strong, especially when there's no swarm to support it.
Yep, I agree.
The biggest risk with your Zenobia is that someone's going to cut your healing. So if you don't send something to do that, man, that Zenobia is just going to have a good old time defending.
Could you imagine a Zenobia Richard just sitting there pounding healing out nonstop against a single rally? It would almost be like just an infinite Garrison. You might start healing troops that didn't even exist before. There's so much healing happening on that pairing. And as we're talking about that, there's just under 4 minutes left to go until the Ark spawns in the middle, and we see a lot of 1008 really starting to come over the top away from their Shrine of War, which looks to be pretty much secured with the rally almost down and one, in fact, down, and then the Ethelfled single march here, just kind of saying, hey, I'm still here, but going down as well. So 1008 is the first one to the middle and is starting to position accordingly. 1341 needs to get in here quick, and this is what I meant about really setting the pace for the game. You want to be in the middle if you're going to be there, and if you're going to be there, you want to be in the middle early. You want to be first because you want to dictate where the fights happen, which ideally is on your enemy side, away from the Ark where it spawns, and then you can grab it and take it back to your side.
Yeah, I like creating that buffer between where the enemy needs to get to and where all your marches are. It's pretty tough to deal with. I mean, there's an argument to be made for getting it to the center early to do that. The downside is you leave your structures vulnerable, and we do see that 1341 owns the Sky Altar that should be or belongs to Blue. It's on their side of the battlefield.
Sure is. Yep, and I'm watching that right now. It looks like 1341 is pretty much owning the open field here. I feel like looking at both of these teams, and I've seen this before because it's been the same thing that I've dealt with as well, some of these players look to just be trying to do too many things, and I think that's part of their plan. unfortunately. It might be a plan issue where they're being asked to do 3 things and 4 things at the same time instead of just the one thing. Because I've seen so many points where I've clicked across the map where there's armies just sitting there that would normally be swarming something or defending something or swapping out into the different buildings to swap and top off the garrison. And it's just not happening because they're also in the middle trying to fight, and they're also over in the outpost trying to take the outposts, or over in the provisioning area killing provisioners. Like, they're doing too many things. The more simple you can make a lot of these tasks for these players, the better off you're going to be. And I think that both of these teams are kind of having a little bit of a struggle with that as this Sky Author gets swarmed down for 1008, which is now manned by a Wu. It does go down, and now let's check the middle out, Chiskel.
Yeah, I'll add to what you're saying and contribute that multitasking is the enemy of focus, right?
Mm-hmm.
Really hard
For sure
to pay attention to all the different things happening. There's a mystical formation in the middle.
I've been seeing a couple different skills pop off, and this is the gold standard, right? War drums and mystical formation. That's been what everybody uses. Pop both of those off. That's 6 points and go to town, right? Or 5 points. Can't remember which one it is. There are other skills, guys. There are other skills that do more damage for roughly the same points. Just going to put it out there. Something for people to take a peek at. And maybe, utilize in their own Ark of Osiris whenever the time comes next weekend. I think that that's something that people need to look into besides using mystical formation and war drums, especially considering there's other skills that just take up 1 slot instead of 2 slots that do basically the same thing.
Yeah, it does seem.
There it is.
There it is.
To the death.
That's the one. Yeah. Very popular. We've been seeing that really surge in use in the Ark of Osiris playoffs for sure all day today.
The key is it's got to be used at the right time. It's got to be used at the right time because it doesn't last as long as the other 2 skills, but you get more pack for your punch. So you're going to start seeing some blue marches run away with sad faces. I see red marches running away with sad faces right now. Maybe they used it too late and used it on armies that were almost dead. I think that might be what happened.
Ark is in.
Ark is
okay. So now we see who's got quick hands.
And
there's
red
an
coming from
opportunity.
behind.
Yeah, there was an opportunity for blue to get a grab. There's Swift Stride, extra march speed, making a play for the Ark. And, that would have been too much if they got the Ark and had Swift Stride going.
I see quite a few double C's here, too. I see Saladins with Support Tree. If you use it correctly, you got Hasty Departure, although I think that that's probably worn off by this point. It's out, but it's down. So now it's going to be, again, a big cluster here of marches just really trying to eliminate the enemy color. I mean, just if it's not your color, kill it, right? It looks like 1008 has grabbed it. Let's see who has grabbed it. Give them a shout out. Stormblessed again with the Ark grab and running back, although down again with that double C. This is where you see the top tier teams. They've got a line of double Cs, one behind the other, behind the other, behind the other, to basically baton swap this Ark.
So now they're battling for this Ark. The rest of the map looks fairly even. Let's play this out a little bit. Points per minute in favor of the match underdog, and I say that by virtue of where people put their Oryx this week. So 17,000 points for 1341, 15,000 points for 1008. 108 grabbing the Ark now. If 1008 gets this Ark, the match is still pretty even, right?
Yeah, it's still a 1,000 point game, and obviously, again, with the points per minute evening up right now, before this Ark is captured, there's a 2,000 point delta in favor of 1341. So I think that if 1008 grabs this Ark, this really means that 1341 has to grab the next Ark, because if they already grabbed the first one, right? And they're now down once 1008 grabs the second one, even though it's 500 more points. I think the delta is going to be a lot higher than that. So when we're looking at the delta here, if they don't capture this one, they need to get the next one, because if not, they're losing the structure game. They're going to lose the Ark game at that point, and then they're going to be in trouble. You got to win 2 out of 3. They got to pick one, and really, the one you really don't want to lose, from what I've seen, is the Ark game.
Yeah, it does seem that way. And it's toward the 1008 side of the field. Kaladin Stormblessed carrying yet again. Up and Still trying to bring that thing back. Now, I think it's interesting, though, if 1341 were to get this arc, they would get a pretty sizable lead, although it does not look like that is going to be the case with this arc. It is moving pretty solidly now toward the blue side of the map, although still a lot of folks in red over here.
Just crashed again. I was looking to see if maybe they were going to take it over to the Desert Altar while I'm bringing the game back up, and see if maybe there was a rally already on the Desert Altar, and that's what made them make that decision to go back to the obelisk. But as soon as I did that and then came back to the fight, it was like, no, hard no. We're not going to do that for you. So I'm reloading up right now.
Naturally. Well, I don't see a rally yet hitting that altar. I do see 1341 sending a lot of folks toward the Desert Altar, and if I look in the rally list, I see perhaps the rally is mobilizing. Yes, the rally is mobilizing now on that Desert Altar. So 1341 knows that, gosh, if 1008 is going to take the arc there, then we'd better try to take that building, or at least use the structure to move a bunch of folks downfield, which I think is a very good choice. That arc now making its way back toward the obelisk instead of to the altar, which I think is a really clean answer for the fact that the altar could be taken, whereas all those cities back toward the obelisk cannot be taken.
So here's a huge problem for 341. 1008 has the arc, and they're moving it, right? But if you look at the bottom side of the map, they've lost the Shrine of Life, they've lost the obelisk, and they did lose one of the altars as well, although they did just take one back. So they're down on points significantly. They're down 100 points a minute, and they're also not going to get the arc. That's a double whammy of, oh crap, we need to do something, because they're going to lose the arc. That's 3,500 points. They're down 100 points per minute, and it's going to take another 3 minutes if they take those structures back, which they just did, to start generating points again. So you're looking at a 300 plus 3,500. It's a 3,800 point swing. Now I do see a double C-led rally coming in. Looks like it's rallying an outpost. So again, it's only 500,000 troops here. That would have been fantastic if it was to the obelisk, and that would have been 1.5 million troops to maybe take the obelisk and or grab the arc carrier here. It literally is going right by it. Zero just kind of waving at all those 1008 marches, escorting the arc carrier and saying, peace out, yo.
Yeah, I mean, I guess he thought, you know what, we're not going to get anything done that way anyways. We may as well just keep the rally going.
Yep.
Keep the rally going. I mean, you know, to take down the arc carrier that deep into the opposing side's territory is pretty tricky. You really do kind of need them to fall asleep at the wheel, standing there waiting to capture it later on. I do see a lot of folks on their way into the Desert Altar rally by Death Squad. Bunch of troops already there, but man, 108 is there in force.
Yeah, they are. And I'm curious. So Stormblast is returning the arc, but he's passed 4 cities in favor of going to one particular city on the other side of the obelisk. So I'm not quite sure what the deal is there, because there's still 21 minutes left. It doesn't matter which city he returns it to. There's going to be at least one more arc to spawn. Maybe he's just determined to go to that one city. That player deserves the arc to be dropped off at their front doorstep. And with that being said, he's not. He's just going to go ahead and sit here and camp it right beside the obelisk. And I'm not sure if that's the best play or not, but it at least takes the middle out. And 1008 has done a fantastic job of kind of owning the structure game. So maybe this is the play.
Yeah, I mean, given that they're winning the structure game pretty soundly, right? Like 510 to 340 points per minute right now. Yeah, the map's even, but it signifies that 108 has been doing really well with that structure game. I do think it's an interesting play to just say, all right, I'm going to hold the arc. This is, by the way, the moment that you really hope he, that he forgets that he's holding it. If you're in 1341 and you like send a rally on the city right next to it to get a bunch of troops over there, swarm the obelisk to take down the carrier.
You never know. And you said it earlier, like, what's the probability of success, right? Whenever you got that rally going by. And my immediate thought was, you never want to discount stupidity, because it's a thing. It is a thing. You have to plan on it, because if you don't, you're going to miss opportunities that very may well could win you a match like this that's only got a 1,500 point difference, even though, look at this, 210 points per minute right away. is the only points per minute that 1008 is generating right now. 341 has all 4 altars.
My
that
goodness.
was quick. That happened instantly.
They managed to take literally every altar. So maybe this plan they've got going of holding the Ark is not going to work out. 1341 punching hard here. All
Very
4.
hard.
I don't think I've seen it all day.
I don't either. And it was instant, right? Like we were just saying, yeah, they're up by 100 points per minute. 1008's looking great, and then magically, boom, you're down by 200 points per minute, and you're holding an Ark that you actually need to win, and it's not a luxury.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So they took back both of their altars. That's critical
Step 1
for them. Yeah. Yeah. And now they go back on the offense.
They might lose
so
it
looks
again.
like Shrine of Life is under pressure. Also, and actually, well, I think maybe Shrine of Life will be defended, but they've got a really great rally going there. It looks like there's not a proper garrison. And so that's been caught really off guard.
Yeah, Alex Garrison is just not built to be in the garrison. Only 2 of his skills work. There's a Constantine switch. That's helpful. They do have good skill reduction, Constantine does, with the support tree and the garrison trees. But Edward and likely Tamiris? What's the backup there? Is it Edward YSG? Is it Edward? What is it?
Edward and Artemisia.
Edward Artemisia. That's a great rally. And for what they're going up against, if there's no field support from 1341, this looks to be maybe going down. Michelle is another one of those top players on 1008 that has top tier gear and has all the buffs that you're going to want to look for from a rallying player. Jumping up to the Desert Altar here too on the same side, we've got Super Shenron with an Attila Takeda rally, which he's been known mostly for sending Ramses YSG, which is also a pretty good rally that I've seen. And there's the debuff that I was talking about from Tamiris from 1008, trying to take this now Guan-led garrison from 1341. My goodness, what is the decisions being made there, putting Guan as the primary garrison?
You know, sometimes things get a little hectic.
They do.
Oh my. Yeah. Sometimes the garrison captain you expected to be there is not where you need them. Oh man.
Especially when they're taking rallies like this, right? Like both of these teams are firing back to back rallies. So if you don't have time to go and refresh your troops as a garrison leader, sometimes you actually could just lose your garrison leader, and it's being sent back with a sad face, and then next thing you know, you've got that Guan or that Alex sitting there not really doing much for you from a garrison perspective. At least throw a Richard in there to get a few more troops back with a heal or something like that. But and then a lot of times, again, we've got 8 minutes left on the Ark. Not necessarily too pertinent now, but a lot of times you'll have the middle fight starting, or it's 4 minutes and you need to start preparing to move in, and you need to also swarm these 2 rallies that are smacking all of your buildings right now. You need to kind of get all over that. 1341 has done a great job of clearing the field around this Desert Altar, and now is really kind of just relying on this garrison of Charles Theo to take out this Attila Takeda, which it looks like it will. I don't see any reinforcements coming for 1008. So they should, I mean, they're kind of camping right now, but they should kind of be pressing the initiative. There's a rally going on at the Shrine of War directly above them. They should go field support the crap out of that. But just as I say that, it goes down.
Yeah, it does seem like you plant that Zenobia, by the way. You plant that Zenobia and anything you don't want to lose, and you are in good shape.
Yeah, imagine 4 and 8 of them. Because what they're going to start doing, right, is they're going to rally, they're going to take a building, and then they're going to switch it on over to Zenobia full infantry and call it a day. That's basically the idea.
Yeah. Yeah, we've got those Zenobias in our kingdom. Looking forward to hopefully getting a KVK pop soon to take them to the field, you know?
Yeah, I'm doing the same. I'm going to be taking my Zenobia and taking those services to a newer kingdom as well. So this is going to be interesting to see how this plays out. That's one thing that I do think that needs to be a little bit of had a look taken at it. A lot of players right now are doing some migrating, okay? So those players from the earlier kingdoms are going to have a Zenobia. They're going to have a Herald. They're going to have the Adora. They're going to have Artemisia. They're going to have all these late generation commanders. And then they're going to go to like what is now, I mean, we're looking at the 2100 kingdoms. I mean, we're getting into the heavy kingdoms in this game, and having a commander like this, like a Zenobia, like a Herald, like I just mentioned, be able to come to an early kingdom That's a bit much. I mean, we just saw it, right? These guys are really excited to get Attila Takeda, and then like, bam! Oh, by the way, I've already got Zenobia, so here you go.
Yeah, have we found the answer to Zenobia yet? We certainly haven't seen it in this arc matchup.
Definitely not. I haven't seen that Shrine of War blink anything but blue. And really, I think the only thing that you can look to do is really have a heavy field presence to stop the reinforcements and swarm it down. It has to have a rally with swarm and just clear the open field reinforcements from the defending army. And that's really what's going to get you that building. Because Zenobia, that's the one thing that people have kind of knocked her on is she's not great against the swarm. She's got the heal, and if you pair her up with an AoE commander, like, say, a Theodora, like, say, a YSG, like a YSS, like an Artemisia, those are all great pairings. It helps, but it's not completely anti-swarm, like a Wu is, for instance, where she starts gaining a lot of rage, she starts gaining a lot of defense, she starts gaining a lot of that damage reduction when she's swarmed.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's spot on. Now, with only 14 minutes remaining, what are we looking for from these teams? I mean, it's such a close matchup. They're jockeying for position with these structures. 5 minutes till the next arc. Not a lot of time to try to take something. Nothing's even blinking right now.
Yeah, you got the outposts behind and for 1008 that they're going to want to go ahead and shore those up. They honestly should just throw 3 armies, 1 in each one of those outposts, and just leave it, because they're losing it to nothing, and there's 1 player taking out 90 points per minute, which is, again, huge. With 13 minutes left, that's quite a bit. That's almost 1,300 points of points that they're going to need, because they're down by, look at it, they're up by 1,100 points, but it depends on how this arc plays out in 4 minutes. 1008 is already coming to the middle. 1341 starting to think about it. They're coming down to the bottom corners and edges. Havilando, Koala, all these guys are starting to come in. So, I mean, we're talking about this probably being Jiskel, the arc that wins it. We've got provisions, right? We've got all that coming as well. But you got 12, 13 minutes left. Once you get into this bubble, it really comes down to 2 things. Can you hold enough of your structures to keep generating some points? And can you grab the arc? Because provisions have been pretty even for most teams in the playoffs. They're averaging between 3,000 and 6,000. On average, that's kind of what the number is. And really, that's a big deal. But they're all kind of doing it at the same pace because of the pace of the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So let me ask this question. So we see 108 kind of charging into the center. How far forward would be the perfect position, do you think, to march all those troops that they're bringing? Now, obviously, they're under a little pressure now, I'll say. So it's, changes things.
Yeah, you got a lot coming from the south at the Desert Altar. A lot of 1341 are peeling off of that Desert Altar now that the Attila rally is kind of okay to ignore. You got the Shrine of War there, uncontested right now. You had a double C there trying to just grab it, thinking there was nobody in there, which why would that be the case? I would, looking at the sides, right, I would look at the sides first to make sure you're not getting backstabbed by a bunch of marches, which has a possibility. You've got this Cam rally of Attila. I would just cancel that Attila rally from Cam on the bottom lane and just bring it to the middle. This is not going to work. This rally is not going to work against this Zenobia. This is the opposite of what you want to be doing against a Zenobia. It's exactly playing into what that Zenobia is built for, which is to take out Attila Takeda. There's a 1341 rally for Angor here coming across the top of the lane, the middle lane as well. I'd look to see that get broken as well. It looks like it's going to the obelisk, which is perfect. You break it right in the middle of the middle lane and bring all those marches in to hit the reinforcements. That's exactly what they just did. This is going to be interesting. I to answer your question, though, I would have pushed all the way down. Just based off of what I'm seeing here. What are you going to do? Bring it back to my side where all the blue buildings are at? Like, is that your plan?
Yeah. This is interesting. This is the bout that will decide what happens here. If blue gets control of this arc, I think it's going to be enough points to pull ahead.
There's to the death
1341 again. Using to the death. There it is. A lot of energy being put into the center now. The rest of the map looking fairly even. Points per minute up for 1341 by just enough to tie the matchup and get maybe even a little bit ahead if there's no answer.
In a couple minutes, yeah.
1008. So this is what it's coming down to. This arc is really critical.
Look, we got 10 minutes left, and there's 30 points per minute difference right now. Even if they even it up, right? It's such a close game. Provisions could be a big deal here. If the arc is not captured, provisions are everything. So you have to figure out what you want to do. Do you go all in? I mean, and when I say all in, I mean every march that is capable of moving needs to go to the middle and grab this arc and capture it within the next 10 minutes. That wins you the game. Or do I delay enough to where nobody captures the arc, but I out provision my opponent here at the end? Because it's basically a 150-point game, now 250-point game right now. It's too close to call. There's no way that any team can sit here and say, yeah, I'm going to win this. We're done. The cluster here in the middle is massive. I see a lot more blue marches heading back dead than I do see red marches because of that fight to the death skill and because they've got more reinforcements coming from both sides of the lane. I look to see 1341 really being able to control this middle. And then on top of all that, I mean, just look at all the sad faces for blue. Just going north.
Yeah, this is pretty wild. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen in the middle here. I can say that I see a lot more reinforcements perhaps on their way for blue. Oh, no, those are lines of retreating marches.
Yeah, they're going away. Those are the ones that are already dead.
Oh, my.
And here comes Easy Company behind as well for 1341, and he has a good, solid open field setup as well. I've seen him fight on the open field too. So, I mean, look at this. There's so many red marches. My game is still populating red marches, whereas the blue ones are just slowly fading away. This could be huge. It's already on a breakaway. Dodo's got the arc and is going strong.
Wow.
Look at that.
That's a breakaway, all right.
Big time.
That is a breakaway with the arc. Blue scrambling to knock them down. Oh, my. With the arc that far downfield, I feel like blue in a best-case situation stalls for 8 minutes. But they're down.
They're down. They need this.
I guess they're up 90 points per minute, though. That'll even it up a little.
It depends on when these other buildings go back their way. It's 8 minutes left. Yeah, I mean, it's a 700-point game in favor of 341 right now, and 341 has the field positioning on this arc. If 1008 can out-provision, like we were talking before, and deny 1341 from grabbing this arc, which they now have it again, that could be the play. Out provision, grab those provisions at the very last moment, and come away with the victory. It's now a almost 800-point game in favor of 1341. I think some provisions are starting to come in. Again, the 500 points per minute versus 590 in favor of 1008. That is going to adjust some things, but they need every bit of that over the next 7 minutes, and I'm not sure if that's going to be enough.
7 minutes from this position to try to stop the arc being scored is an honest to goodness eternity. It's so long. It's so long. That is so much time that they've got to try to stall this. And there it goes again.
Yeah, I was going to say, especially considering how close they are to those red structures. Now, we've got the outpost down here, right? It's now red again, counting down 2 minutes until it starts generating points. You don't have to capture it to capture the arc. As long as it's your color, you're good to go, but you also have to worry about, do you have enough space in that structure to capture that arc? And outposts are one of the worst buildings to do that in because, one, they swap back and forth so quickly because of that 500,000 cap. And two, even if you have it maxed out and defended, you're going to have to pull at least an army out to capture the arc. And that could basically be half of your garrison. So it's just going to be hard to keep it and cap it with a situation like this where it's just all the armies are just messed and mashed together. If they cap it, though, 5.5, almost 6 minutes left. I mean, this is looking very good for 1341. 1341 caps this. It's not over because the provisioning can be a big deal here, but this is a almost last nail in the coffin for 1008. It's going to be very difficult for 1008 to really push the points, even though they got a little bit of an advantage. I don't know if it's going to be enough, Chisco.
Yeah, I agree. This is by the second looking more and more like it's.
And he's still got it.
Yeah, like it's a lock for 1341. I don't know. Oh is he going to be able to cap this?
That's the thing. Is there enough space in here for There it is. Okay, so 35,000 points to 30,000 points.
Wow.
This is now a 5,000 point game. There is no way to make that up in bulk or in points per minute. You're only going to, well, I guess the only way is in bulk with provisions. And right now, Red has taken over the Shrine of War. They've taken over the Obelisk. They've taken over an outpost. They're looking very good. 1341 is looking very good. As they lose one of their altars at the top there, it's not going to be a points per minute thing. You got 140 points per minute in favor of 1008, but there's only 4 and some change minutes left. That is not going to be enough to make up a 5,000 point gap. Do we see any provisioning? Let's look around and see if there's any caravans here that are filled with blue and red marches. See a couple red marches here on the bottom, Chisco.
I'll tell you this. I am looking at one of the points totals for one of the players in blue. It's 5,000 points.
Ooh.
So I guarantee you that's a player who has just been provisioning literally the whole match. Right?
Yeah.
And if I look in red, they do not have anyone who is doing that.
That's a very good point. So 5,200, they either could win you the game or made you lose the game because they did absolutely nothing. That's the play here. Is it, do they bring back 5,000 points in provisioning, or have they just not been in the fight and haven't been able to be productive enough to get their 10,000 points to get at least something from a reward standpoint, let alone from a contributing fighting wise? And I'm not sure why there's anybody in the middle here, Chisco, but there is.
I am inclined to say that they might pull down like 6,000 points of provisioning.
It's possible if that person has been provisioning the entire time. That is very possible. And it's a 5,000 point match. And I've seen a single player do 5,000-6,000 points.
Yup. I think it could happen.
Okay.
If there's a team where it could happen, or or half a dozen teams, I would bet on that happening. This is one of those teams.
So
we battled against them week over week, and every time they pulled down some real solid, consistent gathering scores.
So if for some reason we see 1008 jump in the lead in this matchup, it has to be because of provisioning, because right now they have a 230 point per minute, which is basically going to give them 500 and some change points total if everything stays the same, which it won't, but if it did, that means that literally 4,500 points needs to come from provisioning. If that happens, do we call 1008 the Gathering Farming Champions of Osiris League? Is that their title? Like, where do we go with that?
I don't think so. We saw a matchup earlier today where they picked up 9,000 points from provisioning.
That's insane.
It was insane. So I don't know that. I mean, maybe they'll pull that down today, and they're in 1008. Maybe they're actually laughing confidently that they've got this locked up. Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. I have to think that 1341 has done some provisioning too, right?
You would think. That's the thing. It's not a one-sided coin, is it? I mean, there is a lot of players, and I'm looking at both of the obelisks here for 1008, and I'm just seeing tons of armies just firing away at the caravans. It doesn't matter what they are. They're just going into a caravan to grab something. It is down to okay, here comes some. So there's what is that? Where are we at? 3,500 point game now. Yep, 3,500 point game. We're almost at 33,000 right now. So now we're up to 3,300 point game in favor of 1341. We got Cam over here hitting an outpost in the left side here. It would behoove him to go and kill all of them. That's exactly what he's doing. He's coming over here to kill all these provisioners that might win the game. We saw the other game where they won by 5 points. 5 points. Oh my goodness.
I couldn't believe that.
The amazing thing, that was what.
Oh my gosh, one of these gatherers is going to get knocked out in a caravan. They lose all the rewards.
Where's that?
Oh my goodness. That's on the 1008 side.
I see that.
War Titans just clearing them out.
They need to pay that. They need to pay attention to that. That's huge. So again, everybody that's listening, if you die in the node, you lose everything. Everything you've got, you're coming back with 0 troops. If you die,
2,000 point difference.
2,000 point difference. If you die on the open field, you still get all of it. So if you stay in this caravan and you're not paying attention, you wasted your time. Now it's down to 1,000 points. 1,000 points. with
Caravanning.
marches coming back. I wouldn't kill the troops. This is a mistake. This was a mistake. TGB should not have killed that troop. That troop may make it back with the provisions needed. They're ahead by... Oh my goodness. This is huge. Now they're up by 200 points. Where's the provisions from 1341? That is crazy.
Wow.
1340. I gotta go to the final screen here just to see who won. It was so close.
Wow. So
Steve O with the MVP. Let's go to the tape at the very end. Victory for 1008 Chiskel. Tell me what just happened. What did I just see?
Provisioning. I told you they provision a lot and that they could pull out in upwards of 6,000 points. And that's what they did. Now, what's interesting is it's not like the squad didn't provision. They've got 4,200 points themselves. But it was just enough edge. Unbelievable.
They turned it all in at the end, though. Like, they kept all of their provisions. That was a strategy. They kept almost all of their provisions for the last 2 minutes of this game because they were down by almost 6,000 points once that last arc was capped in favor of 1341. This has to be a crushing blow for the squad. Just kind of having it wrapped up, right? You feel like you've got it wrapped up. Like, there's no way they can out-provision us by 5,000 points. And they've been provisioning the whole match and turning them in, right? Well, 1008 didn't turn them in. They've been provisioning the whole match, but they've been keeping them. And they threw them in at the very end. That is insane. The kill counts are amazing. 1341 definitely added more